Hi, everyone. I wanted to touch base with you and go over some information with you concerning our big theme of the mission, which is this idea of globalism. I'm going to share 3 videos with you. I'll put the links in the YouTube clip as well as the Blackboard post. I highly recommend taking a view of each one. They will be pretty informative about what it means to be a global citizen and this kind of new way of thinking about how we should operate in a global world today. All right, so the first of these videos comes from Hugh Evans, who did a TED Talk on what does it mean to be a citizen of the world. And so his video talks largely about individuals who are acting in this way and how he acts in this way. And the goal of it is to consider ourselves humans first before we start thinking about ourselves as, Americans or Illinoisans or Sugar Grovians or whatever we are. He says that we should be humans first, and that if we think in that framework, we can solve issues like gender inequality, economic inequality, instability, global crises like the environment or oil, these kinds of things, water rights. He argues that a global citizen, when they think in these ways, can solve these big problems. And he actually has case studies that show how this is actually working, and that we don't have to start from scratch. We can actually start building upon systems that already exist. One such system was created by Mohammed Yunus, a man from Bangladesh, who created what's called the Grameen Bank. So this will be the second video that I'll share with you. It's a short one, and it talks about how he created the Grameen Bank and what that is. It's a small microfinancing, meaning that they give tiny loans to people who are impoverished, right? So maybe a loan of like $20 at a very small interest rate. And he shows that those kinds of access to credit for the impoverished can exponentially raise their financial status and their social status, because once they have access to that financing, they can then invest in themselves, right? So he shows that like women in India, for instance, will buy rice, and then they'll use that rice and start selling food on street markets, and they'll be able to pay back that loan and the interest and make money on top of it. And one of his arguments is that this is something that world financiers have known for a long time, and that's that it's not about how much money you have, it's about how much credit you can gain. And so he created this thing called the Grameen Bank, and he actually won the Nobel Peace Prize for doing so. He wrote a fantastic book called Creating a World Without Poverty. It's a really interesting guide to kind of how he created his idea and what its impact has been on the world. And then the last video is actually kind of a selfish plug. It is a video that I did last year for the school called the Global Optimist. And so it kind of synthesizes all the classes that I teach. So the idea behind it was how do the humanities lead towards real life world solving problems, right? My video is pretty long. It's an hour long, so I don't recommend watching the whole thing in one sitting. It was a lecture I gave in the auditorium, and the idea behind it was that if we think optimistically about globalism as opposed to pessimistically about globalism, we could solve some world problems. Right, so I will link all 3 of these in this YouTube clip. These are great, informative kind of pieces that will help you solve the citizen achievement. So if you want to look at that achievement, you'll see that it requires some things for you to do. These are some ways to kind of like frame that discussion for you, especially when it comes to like being a global citizen. All right, guys, thanks again. And if you have questions, as always, reach out to me. I'll be talking to you soon.